What's up, everyone? Welcome to Barstool Breakdown, episode 38. And we got a great show for you today. But once again, before I get into that, if you have not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Only takes a second, only helps us out. We appreciate all the subscribers out there. We apologize for the ads, but we got to pay for the show some way. So we appreciate you guys supporting us. We got another great one today. It's the third female ever on the show. You know her from the College Football Show. You know her from the Pro Football Show. You know her from Unnecessary Roughness. You knew her from a bunch of other podcasts. She's been with Barstool for a really long time already. It's Kayce Smith. Let's get it.
Get sturdy as fuck.
This is it.
I should be over all the butterflies, but I'm into you. And baby, even on the worst nights, I'm into you.
All right, we're here with a very special guest. It's the third female ever to be on this show. She's the queen of football at Barstool. It's Kayce Smith. How we doing, Kayce?
Fantastic. So who are the girls before me? I think Paige, my girl Paige did it, right?
Mm-hmm. Paige has got the most
one?
views ever for one of our episodes. So shout out Paige. And the other one is
she's
Gia,
phenomenal.
who also had one of our highest episodes at the time when she was on. She was on very early. So shout out to Paige and Gia because crushed it with the views. So
Come to find out, guys like to hear from the girls at Barstool. Who would have known? We're such a misogynistic company, but here we are.
I was saying, everyone thinks we're misogenic, and it's like not really. So
yeah, exactly. No, I love Paige. I love Gia, but Paige has done such a phenomenal job in Chicago. Every time I go there, which is obviously a ton, I am shocked that she is like sane still. I don't know how she does it. Like the fact that she has not gone batshit crazy is honestly like impressive enough. She just keeps them all in line. It's wild.
Yeah, it's nuts. She does a phenomenal job over there. We were asking her about like how do you keep up with like Amazon orders alone, because like Big Cat's over there spending like it's a monopoly. It's crazy.
She does such a great job, and I always tell her like the fact that like she came in not really having a big time like background of understanding how the inner workings of Barstool happens, like that's not an easy thing to do. I babysit the guys I do the football shows with, and that's enough, and that's usually like 3 or 4 of them. She's got like 100 of them that she deals with like real life requests every day. Like I would go insane, and she somehow like looks phenomenal, smiles, and then drinks wine with me still, and I'm like, girl, you're a superhero. So I love Paige. Big fan of Paige.
Absolutely, she's phenomenal. And you kind of mentioned something there about how like she didn't have a Barstool background or anything. We always start the show pretty similar way, and yours, it seems really interesting. When I was looking at your LinkedIn, I didn't realize all you've done, Kayce. So I want to ask, like, what got you into Barstool is the question, but coming from you have a decorated past. It seems decorated past with all other media platforms that like they all have more of a serious tone to it. So what's the transition to, like, what got you into Barstool, and what's that transition been like coming from more of those corporate ESPN and Fox and SB Nation, NBC Sports, all that?
Yeah, no, it's definitely decorated would be a good word. And by the way, the fact that I have a LinkedIn still is a little bit scary. I didn't know that still existed.
Yep.
So she
Oh
no.
No.
She frees for you too. Yeah.
Yep, we lost her.
Shit.
This is that New York Wi-Fi. Come on, this is all business Pete's fault.
Pete.
This is
Did
all
did
business.
the internet just
She's
go
back.
out? This is
we're
not
back.
my fault.
We're back. No. This is all business Pete's fault. Motherfucker, Pete.
This is like perfect timing, right? So let me just should I start the answer over. Is that what we should do here?
We're leaving this in for sure.
100%.
Yeah. Whatever you want to do.
Out, please. Like I was sitting here talking, I was like, Jesus, really? Like, of course it's happening.
Kayce, they're doing roof ball streams in Chicago at random people's house, and you can't get internet in the office.
And as somebody who spends equal time, actually probably spend more time in the Chicago office than here, it just baffles me how different these things can be. But nevertheless, no, I long story short, had I not been where I was the actual like time of Barstool, the year that right after Erica had been hired and what Dave was wanting to do, I would have never ended up at Barstool, because I went into traditional media right out of college, always wanted to be like an Aaron Andrews sideline reporter, because at the time and my age, it was like, that was the only real way women who didn't play sports professionally or in college could get into it. I grew up loving football. Texas A&M was like all I cared about growing up. So I went to college, worked for the football team, did the broadcast there. And because I was graduating in 2012, which, if you're not an A&M fan, I don't anticipate people realize this, but that's when Johnny Manziel won the Heisman. And we went to SEC Media Days, and I worked locally in College Station, and they wanted somebody that knew Johnny, that knew kind of what was going on at A&M, and that grew up an Aggie fan. And they threw me on live TV, and they said, here's your shot. Like, don't screw this up. The next thing I know, I was covering the sidelines for college football with ESPN, did a lot of Sports Center stuff, worked in the NBA for a little bit with Fox Sports, just kind of did the whole circuit. And I got to a point where I was like, you know what, I love this, but they're really putting me in a box. I was in my, early to mid 20s. I'm blonde, I'm tall, I'm blue eyed. It was like, there was kind of like a cookie cutter that I had gotten stuck in. And I had an opportunity to go back into sports talk radio. And at the time, people thought I was insane. They're like, well, what are you doing? It was kind of a mutual decision by ESPN and myself that they weren't seeing a future for me and vice versa. So I went into that within 6 months of doing local radio in College Station. It was like simulcast on SB Nation. I was in Boston working for NBC Sports, doing 3 hours of TV 5 nights a week, which I know sounds insane, but like I can't even begin to tell you 15 hours of TV every single week is not for the weak. The good news was that I was on TV so much in Boston that Dave ended up seeing it. So I'm sitting in my apartment in Boston one night, and I think it was like midnight Eastern, and I had never spoken to Dave before. We had no interaction at all. I obviously knew who he was. And this is in 2017, early 2017. Mm-hmm. And the DM I got was like, hey, I hear you like college football. And I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, is this the real Dave Portnoy? And I was like, sweet midnight DM, dude. And he was like,
did you think it was like a creepy one?
And I was like, okay, fine. Yeah. But it was just one of those things where he and Erica had, come to the decision that they wanted to expand past just what Barstool had been doing. I was on TV constantly in Boston. He knew who I was from that. And my background was in college football at ESPN. So within a few months, he flew me to New York. I did the rundown, did Barstool Radio with him and Kevin and John and the whole group, and had a job almost immediately. So starting in 2018, I've been here. And that's why I say, had it not been the way that Barstool had grown, like if it was a few years earlier, like I probably wouldn't be here. But Dave saw me as like more than just a traditional media personality. And that's kind of, how I grew here. But I'll never forget that DM. Like, dude, what? It's midnight. Like, what are you doing? Like,
I just really want to know.
Like, DMs right now? Like, no, he was just actually interested in a job for me.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say, because your first thought had to be like, whoa, creepy, dude. Like,
no, it was more just like, this can't be the real guy like this. And of course,
okay.
I go, because he wasn't verified at the time. Right. So then I go look, and it actually is the followers. And my boyfriend at the time, who we're not together anymore, but even when we still like randomly talk, he'll be like, I'll never forget seeing that and being like, what? And like, it was just one of those weird things, but that's kind of the way Barstool has always worked, right? It's like Dave thinks of something, he acts on it right then. And they didn't have college football. They had done the smaller things, him and Dan had gone and dressed like Dumb and Dumber, but they saw an opportunity to say, let's really expand in this. And that's what I love is college football. I just happen to also be working in Boston. And if you live in Boston, you couldn't get rid of me because I was on TV 24/7. So it was a nice, like kind of just, like lightning in a bottle. And I actually met Dave the first time I ever met him in person was the night of the Roger Goodell clown towel game.
Oh, no way.
I was with him having lunch, and Za walked up and handed him one of the boxes of that. And they were on their way to Gillette, and I was on my way to studio to cover that game against the Chiefs. So it's just a whole weird storm that really worked out.
Yeah, I mean, definitely worked out. But so how was that immediate? You said you came in right away, did the rundown, all that. So what'd you notice right away? You're coming off of, off a set of NBC Sports Boston, and you're running into the rundown to where like, no profanity to, you don't know what the fuck you're going to get with the next sentence.
I got in trouble because I called David Price an asshole on TV in Boston, and you can say ass, you cannot say asshole. They've got all these things, and because we were late night too, so like 9 to 12, I believe 11 to 12, we had a little bit more leeway of what we could say. So I think I kind of pushed the button a little bit, and I said that, and then I come into Barstool, and it was right around the time when Feidelberg had gotten into the fight with the cyclists. I don't know how much you guys remember that. But that was like one of the big radio segments that I was on. And, they're asking me how I feel. Like, do you think they're a bunch of assholes and all this? And I'm like, this is crazy. But the cool thing for me was that I got to like be myself and learn how to become more authentic again, because it had kind of, been taken out of me with traditional media. Like I called A&M y'all my whole life. that was beaten literally. Like if you say y'all about A&M, you cannot be on TV. And so learning how to go back into that by being thrown into Barstool, it was the perfect storm because it was like, this is my actual personality. I finally get to show it again.
Yeah,
Well,
you
the crazy
mentioned
part is that Dave obviously saw that from even just you being on
Mhm.
TV. He was like, "This is the one I want." He's got an unbelievable eye for talent. It's just insane. So the
Well,
fact that
thank
he could
you.
see that's crazy.
And like, not to be like, see the haters. Like, I think a lot of people, especially newer people to Barstool, don't realize like kind of how I was like became a part of Barstool. But the cool thing about it is you're right, is that it wasn't just me being on the sidelines, which nothing against that. I did Celtics games on the sidelines, but it was because we had 3 hours a night on TV that you had to be yourself. You had to be able to have conversations about the Patriots, about the Red Sox, the Bruins, the Celtics. And because Dave was able to see that, that's really what gave me the leg up, because had I just been on the sidelines, he wouldn't have gotten to see that personality come out. And I was arguing with the guys on TV all the time. But the biggest thing is he knew my background from college football. So it truly was a perfect storm. I say that with Barstool, and I say that with the way that Johnny and Texas A&M helped me get my first job at ESPN. It's like, it's been really nice to have that perfect storm for me. And I work my ass off, but it's also been right time, right place too.
Yeah, and I mean it like Frankie was saying, Dave has an eye for talent. It's recognizable, Kayce, especially the way that you seem to manage, the talent that you work with on you name it, Unnecessary Roughness, Pro Football Show, Barstool College Football Show, all of that. Let's start with the big one, Unnecessary Roughness, which is, back out. We're heading into the dog's days of summer, right?
Yeah.
We got to start talking college ball. College ball is the next thing up. We're all, waiting, watching paint dry until that comes through. So to get us there, to bide the time, you got Unnecessary Roughness, a new cast. We lost Jack Mack and Katie Stats, but we added 2 all-stars in Big Ev and Liam Blutman, who we've had on this show, and both of them great guys. And then of course Brandon Walker, who he's all right too, but he's been on the show as well. So what is it like managing that, especially now that you're learning? I know you've known Big Ev, but a guy like Blutman, where like that kid's just unpredictable. You look at him, you're like, what is this?
He is an alien in the best way possible. Like Brandon and I talk about this all the time. Like his brain actually needs to be studied by science. And I say this about Barstool in general, from a content standpoint. Like we all have to have a little bit of a screw loose somewhere to be able to thrive in this environment the way that we do. And then there's a spectrum of that, right? Blutman is so interesting. And I'm like, I don't understand how his brain works, how he's so ridiculously smart. And also just like doesn't get rattled. Like the episode a few weeks ago when Ev and Brandon are talking about how much they love boobs, and they go to Blutman and he starts breaking down the wide receiver depth chart for Texas Tech. It's like, what are you talking about, guy? Like, it's awesome. And the cool thing about bringing in Ev too is like, obviously the college football show is one of the biggest things we do here at Barstool, and it's been phenomenal and the growth has been crazy. But in reality, the dynamic between Ohio State and Michigan and Dave and Ev, and like, that's really what that part for him has always been. You put him in the crowd, he plays the great wrestling heel, where now Ev's going to get a really cool opportunity to actually talk college football. Because if he tries to talk college football in depth on the Barstool College Football Show, guess what happens? Dave calls him fat. We keep it moving. He's actually going to get to talk college football here because he knows so much about it. So
you're right.
It's great. At the end of the day, though, it's Brandon Walker is like, I mean, I give him a lot of shit. You guys obviously know him. Like, he is one of my favorite people on the planet, and he knows so much too. So I think that this group will really gel.
Yeah, I'm pumped. Liam Blutman is one of the guys that it doesn't matter what he's doing or talking about. Like, I just want to hear what he has to say about it, because it's just, he will never, like, if someone tries to like push him into something, he's just like, no, I'm talking about this. So then he just goes, like, it's just like you said, you're talking about boobs, and he just goes, no, we're talking about wide receivers. Like, it's just,
he didn't even like miss a beat either. And that's what's so, I've done this show with Brandon for so long. And then obviously you bring in, when you have Dave and Dan, and when Dion was a part of it, Will Compton, like all these different personalities. Liam is by far the most unpredictable personality. And I've only done like 4 shows with him thus far, because he doesn't even miss a beat. Like, he just goes right into exactly what he wanted to talk about. And it's also very, very interesting and knowledgeable. Like, if you said, hey, we're going to talk about boobs, and you gave me a million guesses of what Liam Blutman would bring up after we talk about boobs, I promise you I would not come up with the wide receiver depth chart in Texas Tech. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, we're definitely going over when it comes to predicting that guy's.
No way, no chance.
But are you concerned at all that Unnecessary Roughness is just becoming an Ohio State podcast? You got Big Ev and Buckeye Brandon.
Here's the thing, and I have that fear a little bit. The problem is, no matter what, Michigan won the national title last year. So Brandon can kick and scream. He can say whatever he wants. Like Michigan won, but there's also the element of like Brandon does that the most against Dave. And because Dave already beat him, Michigan won. Like if Brandon continued to do it, it would just be like sad and pathetic. Like, come on, Brandon. Like you don't want to be Buckeye Brandon. Like you got beat. Like you lost. I was there. We were all there. But I think it'll be very interesting to see. Now, Jim Harbaugh was still at Michigan and, JJ McCarthy was still there and Blake Corum, like maybe we would see that, but Michigan's just so different now. And I also think Brandon just wants to be able to argue, and he's going to want to argue with Ev like that.
I was going to say episode one, he's like, I really hate that you're coming on the show and that Ohio State's going to be good this year. And I was
Frankie,
like,
that shocked me when he did that. I was like, oh, is hell frozen over? Like I've been spending 4 years arguing with you about how good Michigan actually is, which I have said regardless of what Dave thinks. And I ended up being right about that as well. And he's like, never mind, fuck Ohio State. I was like, okay, let's go.
I can see your reaction.
I'm an Ohio State fan. We got to watch the clap in here in the breakdown because this is the Buckeye.
If you guys don't win this year, it's a huge problem for you.
It's us or Georgia. I mean, obviously we have to beat Michigan. Day's been on the longest leash ever for Ohio State fans. Obviously, he's only losing 1-2 games a year, but like we got to beat the
wrong ones.
We can't lose to Michigan without Harbaugh, without Corum, without McCarthy. No, if we lose this year, then yeah, he's got.
I will say that I obviously give Brandon a ton of shit because he's not an Ohio State fan. I am not a Michigan fan, so it's fun. But like, if you are an Ohio State fan, which obviously you are, like, I hate the whole Ryan Day was born on third base thing because like I could be born on third base and I'm not getting teams back to the college football playoff. Like I understand inheriting talent, but that to me, it's like, yeah, you cannot lose to Michigan the way that he had, and obviously if he continues to do that without Jim Harbaugh there, that's a conversation to be had. But like, come on, being born on third base doesn't make you one of the top 4 teams in the country. Like that's a crazy argument to be had. So it's been fun. It's going to be a new era, obviously, because Michigan is different. But once Michigan won, I mean, like the college football show is going to be like kind of like tame this year. I feel like and Dave's just gonna be like, we won. What are you guys going to say?
I mean, okay. So you're not going to have. So Dave will still be able to, say that they won the whole time. And also Michigan's still going to be a damn good program. They passed it off to a very good coach who stepped up when Harbaugh was out on suspension. I know it was against nobodies because that's how Michigan does it. Usually scheduled with nobodies to start the season, all that fun stuff. I mean, Dave is Dave Portnoy. He's going to find some way, especially if he hits the Celtics and the Oilers. And then coming into next football season, he's going to pick someone and he's going to be down everyone's throat with it and be like, I've gotten the last 5 correct. Dave's going to figure that out.
Oh, well, for sure. I mean, anything he touches like strikes gold. Like it's crazy. And I mean, obviously like all the money that he's won this year, like when if you wanted to get in the nitty gritty of it, like it probably doesn't actually come anywhere near to the money he's lost over the last 20 years, but still it's just crazy. Now I'm, as a Celtics person now, and this is where like, I haven't talked about this publicly yet, and I'm going to get into it more. Like I grew up in Texas, obviously my parents are in Dallas. I've always said like I became a Boston fan because I loved sports in Boston so much. Like I was an A&M fan growing up. Like sure, we went to Mavs games, Rangers games, whatever, but like my heart is with Boston. I'm terrified of Luka. Also, like my dad is like, don't talk to me for the next couple of weeks because like you're going against your hometown team. I'm like, sorry, you didn't make me a Mavs fan. I don't know what to tell you. The fact that Dave has that money to win that much more makes me feel that much better about this. It's like, all right, like my family might not talk to me for a few weeks, but the Celtics are going to win because if Dave put all that money down the way he's been gambling so far this year, I feel much safer.
Yeah.
Did you just see me completely like get that? And all of a sudden you're like, I'm from Texas. Whenever I was like, oh shit, they're playing Dallas. Like, no.
This is
as
like,
you were saying, I was like, oh no, this is not good for you.
This is one of those things I never thought would actually come to fruition because like I had to fight. Like, first of all, when I first came to Barstool and I talked about how much I loved Boston and I only lived in Boston, I had an apartment there for much longer, but only really lived there for a year and a half, 2 years. I explained it like when you grow up where I did and you grow up as an Aggie fan, like my dad was an Aggie, my grandpa was an Aggie, like we truly only cared about Texas A&M football. And that was all I cared about. So growing up, like, sure, like, yeah, when the Mavs won the championship in 2011, it was like, okay, that's cool. I went to World Series games when the Rangers were in it. I actually went to a Stars Stanley Cup game because we were in Dallas, in Arlington. But that was never something I was emotionally connected to. When I moved to Boston, I found out what professional football and baseball and basketball and hockey a little bit, that they care about it the way that I care about college football. So that's kind of the way it went. I just never thought I'd see a Dallas team and a Boston team in a championship and have to actually pick. my heart's with Boston. I'm sorry to the Texas fans.
Yeah, we'll clip it for Dad.
No,
sorry
Tiffany,
to my dad. My dad, like I'm like, Dad, I didn't like root against A&M. I would never. I wear my Aggie ring, even though I get made fun of. Like it's his fault. And at the end of the day, it's my dad's fault for not making me a professional sports fan, I guess.
Yeah, there you go.
Fair.
Pop. Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, Dad.
Kayce Smith versus Kayce Smith and Hank Lockwood versus Tiffany Gomez. It's the series of the summer.
Yeah, well, I'm scared of her too. She's got some like magic up her sleeve. You know, this whole series is going to be crazy. But if Dave's money is on your side in 2024, I'll take it.
Yeah, I hate the Celtics. Kobe guy, so I hate the Celtics.
Fair enough.
Got to root for Luka. I was rooting for Ant because Ant gives me that little, everyone's talking about it. Ant gives me that little Kobe vibe. But yeah, so bringing back the college football show. I mean, the moments on that show are incredible. I have a quick question. Ev mentioned it when he was on. Was Connor Stallions actually on stage? Was that him, or was he just around?
I don't know.
Oh, okay, yeah. You guys just have Connor Stallions just linking, so like sitting somewhere writing the new manifesto for the college football show.
I don't know. You never know what happens around Dave Portnoy, right? I can't really say if it was him or not.
Okay, all right. Ev let us know he was around. I was just trying to confirm, but
yeah, hey, like think about it. If you're somebody like Connor Stallions, and you know that we're gonna be in Ann Arbor, like maybe he was around, maybe he wasn't. I'm not sure. I've heard he likes pizza too, and Dave does these like pizza reviews. So I don't know. He may or may not have been there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I gotcha. How is it though managing that? Just that cast alone. You have Dan Big Cat Katz from Part of My Take, biggest sports podcast out there. Brandon Walker, who, I mean, we could go over that guy's personality. He's nonstop. And he's one of those guys that, I mean, Dan's the same way. They just mesh really well with who they're thrown on there with. And then obviously Dave Portnoy, who might've been behind inventing the internet, the way that he has treated it and taken over the internet through his tenure. Like it's incredible. How do you manage three guys like that, especially when they're going at each other? Or if, Dave's on stage yelling, fuck Ohio State. Like, how do you calm that down, get it back? Hey, let's talk top 10 or something.
I'm very like, I don't like to give myself, like pats on the back very often. I'm actually very hard on myself, which this is like a female trait. And I'll totally say that, like, no matter how old I get, like I'm a mom now, I'm hard on myself as a mom, like, but this is one of those things that I do give myself credit, because I don't think people realize sometimes how hard it is to manage those personalities. I'm not saying that I'm like curing cancer or anything, but like on regular TV, and I've done network TV, like it's blocked out. Like, it's like you have this amount of time to talk about this subject, and then you got a commercial break, and everybody is there with that same TV background. That shit's not like, that doesn't happen here. Like, you guys have seen it. If Dave even hears something in his headphones, like hell breaks loose. So one of the things that I've really loved about this for the last, 6-7 years is that I've gotten to take my TV background and really put it to like a cool, like use of getting to manage these massive personalities. And that like, if I wasn't there, like hell would continue to break loose. Like, and that's something that, I really do pride myself a lot on. And like, I don't get to like really share a lot of my opinions in that same form, like I do on Unnecessary Roughness or like I did on TV, but that's not what my job is there for, especially on the Pro Football Show, which has calmed down a little bit without Dave and Dion. But my job is to be the point guard there. My job is to keep it moving. And most importantly, to make sure all the money that's coming into that show, which is obviously a ton, is getting the right amount of space and getting those ads in. And those are things that like, I really do pride myself on. The fun part about it is you don't know what is going to come out of their mouths. And that's what makes it so much better than just regular traditional TV for me. So it's kind of gotten to like, I get to do both, best of both worlds, live TV, batshit crazy dudes, live crowds, beers getting thrown at our head, and I'm the one that has to make the show run. And that to me is something that I really love to do, probably more than anything I've ever done in my career.
I'm surprised.
It's an underappreciated job of a host in broadcasting like that. It's super underappreciated. So it really thanks, because we love the moments of hell, we love the chaos, but we also want to hear about the next game. And without you being there, people probably don't realize it as much. Without you being there, like it might not get to that next ad or that next game. We might only have a minute or two on it.
We would still be sitting right now somewhere talking about Michigan, Ohio State. And that's another thing too, that like Dave is Dave. Like Dave's our boss. Like obviously I've known Dave for a long time. Like there are many times where I need to get him to shut the fuck up, and I just let him go. Cause like, I'm not gonna be like, Dave, stop talking about Michigan. But at some point I have to be like, okay, we have to keep moving, or we would still be in, 2019 talking about Ohio State, Michigan. So, but it's so much fun. And I think that's what I really loved about Barstool, is that I get to do it all. And if I need to tell Dave to shut the fuck up, I'll tell Dave to shut the fuck up. But then we have these, thousands of people and millions of dollars coming into this show because people like that version of those guys. And I get to facilitate that and get get to be a part of that because I can handle their personalities. A lot of people can't. I happen to be able to, and that's, I guess, a skill set that I have in life. I'm not great at a lot of things, but I'm good at that.
Yeah, it's Steve Nash of College Football Show. Love it.
I was gonna say what I was gonna say earlier was I'm surprised ESPN hasn't been up your ass trying to just give you the bag right now after yesterday. Molly just took. She was.
Oh, that was bad.
Oh,
It was
God.
a bad day for Molly yesterday. She was not facilitating at all. She didn't know
No,
what to do.
no.
She was
Like,
frozen.
there is a point too where it's like, traditional TV and network TV, you do have a lot more, of a set of rules where it's like, I don't know what Molly's relationship is with Stephen A. Smith behind the scenes. I have no idea what agents are involved. Like, I know that I can tell every single one of these guys to shut up if I need to. I know I can get into it with any of these guys and we're all going to be fine. We've all traveled together. We're all friends. So maybe that's like a benefit that I have that a lot of these people don't, that I can just tell them to shut up. I don't know what would happen if she did, but she was in a blender yesterday. I felt for her. I felt for her.
Yeah, that was tough.
I mean, again, it's just kudos to you for managing the talent like that, because I think she ended that with what we've been going for 40 minutes. I need to do my job. It's how she finally got him to stop. Like, that was crazy.
Yeah, well, and there is like that's another part. So when this is like one of those moments where I had to like explain it to the guys, like the Arizona Bowl last year, being on the CW, and I was trying to explain to them, like, this is not just, hey, like we can just keep it going. Like, this is broadcast television that you have to hit these hard things. I was like, just let me run it. And PFT, who is an amazing, obviously talent, who's incredibly good at what he does, we took our headsets off during the commercials and he looked at me and he was like, do you know how fucked we would be if you weren't here? I was like, because TV is different. And it's not because I'm better as a personality. By far, that's not true. It's because when you're in television, you have to hit those moments, or advertising's in trouble, production's in trouble. Barstool, we don't have that. We can just say whatever, which is why Dave would still be talking to me in 2019 if we could. So it's a different world. And that's why I like it. I get to blend those two parts of my career, and there's nothing like what I get to do at Barstool, and hopefully I'll get to do it for a long time.
Yeah, and another show that you've done for a while now, and like you said, it maybe lost a little bit of the fight because Deion's busy coaching Colorado. But I mean, you have a rotating cast there on the Pro Football Show that's amazing with Dan, and then Will, Jerry, yourself, Dave, whenever you can make it. If not on the monitor, great. I mean, you've had on who'd you have on this year? You had Delaney Walker.
Taylor Lewan pops in a
Taylor.
bunch. I feel so bad right now. We had multiple people on that I should be able to rattle off right now,
Right.
but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to claim mom brain, which I can do these days. I can use that pass every once in a while. No, we had a lot of former NFL players this year. Kyle Long was one of my favorites. Kyle came back a lot, but that was the cool thing with the change from having Deion not be able to do it anymore, Dave no longer a permanent personality, was that Dan and Will got to really use that rotating cast and have those guys come through. And, you get a perspective from a lot of these guys that you wouldn't get otherwise. The show came about, obviously, to have Deion, and people don't unless you've been following it from the very beginning. In 2020, which obviously was a shitty year for everybody, we actually traveled from New York to Texas, to his ranch, which is outside of Tyler, Texas. Every single Friday, we flew in and out. So we were in the air for 3.5 to 4 hours, would be on the ground, do the show at his ranch, get back on the private jet, and come back to New York. And we did it all because we were going to Deion to make that show work. That was like a pinch me moment. I could not believe it. Like, again, growing up in Dallas, obviously Deion Sanders was a big deal, but just as a football fan. But that show really started with wanting to be built around him. And obviously his career has taken a different direction. But I said from the very beginning, if he wanted to be, one of the top NFL media personalities, he absolutely could. And the fact that we got to be a part of that at the beginning, and then it turned into him flying into New York and, so on and so forth, that the fact that we're here now, even talking about it, is still crazy to me that we used to do that.
Yeah. I mean,
you still keep in contact with him?
I do. And and I'm one of those, like, I'm loyal as they come. Like, obviously I caught a ton of shit last year with Colorado, but it's not even just because like I know Deion personally, which, we worked together for the 3 years that we did. It's because he actually became like a very good friend of mine. He was so kind to my family. My mom will say like, how's Deion? Like, I have a clip, when I was like 9 months pregnant, gigantic, miserable. And he says on the show, like at the very end of it, that he wants, to tell me how good of a job I'm doing. Like, that's actually how Deion really is. And like, that's something that like people don't see, that our relationships with him became friendships and became so close because that's who he is. Now, Obviously, if, Colorado doesn't play well this year, I'm going to have to like buckle up and tell the truth. Do I think some of the stuff on Twitter right now that's going on in Colorado is smart? No. But Dion does mean a lot to me from that standpoint. And I don't really care if people talk shit about it because it's like, whatever, like you're not in my real life. He's fantastic. Like he was so good to work with. And I was actually pleasantly surprised. I did not anticipate somebody of his caliber, like treating us the way that he did from the beginning, which was incredible.
Right. And losing a piece like that can become detrimental to a show in most cases. But I think you guys have done a good job of, like you said, picking up the pieces, filling in that cast with, Will Compton and Dan. They're awesome. Dave's awesome. Will Compton's just such a fucking doof sometimes, though. Like you'll go to Will. All right, Will, what's your pick? He's like, all right, don't worry. I got it this time, Will. Don't worry. Yeah.
And you talk about like my hosting abilities, right? Which at the end of the day is like, if my number one job here is to host those two major, video football shows. Right. I think one of the funniest moments I've had and we've had a ton, obviously working with personalities, but one of the dumbest moments I've ever seen, again, going back to the Arizona Bowl, live on the CW, producer from the truck is talking in our headsets. Can't even tell you what it was. Like I've tuned that out years ago. I asked Will a question. I turn to him and the look on his face, guys, was like the dumbest look I've ever seen. Like he just went fully blank and he looks at me live on television and goes, "I'm sorry, what did you say? Can you repeat that question?" And I'm just like, Will, we're on TV, my guy. Like it was just one of those moments where I'm looking at him like, this is real life for him. Like he just has those dumb moments, but then once he gets going, he can talk football with the boys. He's great, but that's really Will. Like he didn't care where he was. We could have been like hosting the Academy Awards. He was like, "I'm sorry, I don't know what the fuck you said. Can you repeat it, please?"
You got to know that Will Compton, every now and then he's going to hit you with that processing dial up for a second. He's like, "Hold on."
Oh my, and you see it. Like it's like if he was a cartoon, you would see like the dial up internet across his eyeballs. And I'm looking at him like, dude, we're on television, Will. You like spit it out, my guy. But that's just what makes Barstool funny.
We graduated from the same high school, so shout out Compton. So I understand. I process at times as well. But yeah, you guys have done a great job. Do you credit yourself or do you credit that show? Obviously, that show gets a credit, but for giving Lucas a job, because that must have been crazy to break how that all went down. You were like, "Oh, were you shocked?"
I was the way that went down too. Like I still haven't fully like realized how funny that was. If it, you talk about perfect storm and you talk about catching lightning in a bottle, Lucas caught lightning in a bottle because if Dave wasn't the guest on that specific day when it got outed that Jerry didn't actually make those edits, Lucas probably doesn't have a job right now because it was the way that it all came to fruition. Dave finding out that Jerry didn't actually do it. Jerry being like, "Well, I have to pay this guy." Like it was so funny to watch Dave process that. And it was like one of those moments, which Dave has had plenty, where it's like, he's so smart that it like took him a second. He had to like turn his dumb brain off. He was like, "Wait, Jerry doesn't edit? Like, of course, Jersey Jerry's not editing these things, Dave. Like, what are you talking about?" But like, credit to Lucas, like he did it. And now like, obviously having good success, but it was because Dave happened to be there that day and Dan outed Jerry. Like, which again, perfect Barstool story. But had Dave not been there, if it was like Kyle Long that day, he probably wouldn't have a job.
Yeah, beauty of the pirate ship. You really do have to catch lightning in a bottle. Like Lucas came on and said that Dave flew back and saw him in Miami as soon as that show was over, which is crazy. Like you said, and the fact that Lucas was so close to be able to meet with Dave, like it all just, bananas.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm. Frankie, you have a follow up on that show or?
No, I had like a bunch from the other stuff, so I was waiting until the transitions were going to be better because I had something before. You had mentioned Maziel twice, and I was like, "Ooh, perfect." One of my questions is, you had a podcast with Johnny Football or something? What can you talk about that? But never got back to it. So I was like, "All right, well, let's ask that now then." So I saw that you had said earlier that was when like did you say he helped you get into stuff or you worked with him? How did that work?
It was the time period, which it was, obviously like growing up an Aggie fan, I didn't get a lot of things to like really brag about, but it was like, I was born into it. I had no choice to be an Aggie. But when he was at A&M, his redshirt year was my senior year. And then I worked locally at a place called Texags, which is a gigantic like media corporation based around A&M. My first year out of school, which was his Heisman year. So we did, radio 3 hours a day. We covered the team. We were at practices and, had the same friend group. And so when ESPN and the SEC network and everything started catching, obviously wanting people that covered him locally from the time that he stepped onto campus, they came to Texags. And so I got that opportunity to do that. And then it came full circle whenever I started working at Barstool, and Dave put us together for the comeback season, which didn't end up working out because Johnny wasn't in a place in his life and he was playing in the CFL. And it just, I think he probably regrets that a little bit. I can't speak for him, but I think that was just a bad time. But because I had that relationship with him from College Station, again, I know it's a cliche, but this lightning in a bottle, that time for me was a perfect storm. I wanted to get into TV. I was covering the team locally. He's literally the #1 story in the world in sports. And people are like, hey, this 22-year-old girl can talk about Johnny and talk about football. Let's see if she can actually do it. And I could. And that's how I got my job at ESPN.
You guys ever hit the town? Ever partied
back in the so I was a little so here's the thing. I was a little bit too old, because he's a few years younger than me, but I had some girlfriends he liked to hang out with. So he had a good time in college, right? He had a great time. His actually, who he's in all the Heisman photos, which she's the beautiful girl that he grew up with. She and I were friends. We worked together for a little bit at this lake house bar. So we all kind of ran in the same circle. But the cool thing was, it was always not, I don't want to say professional because we were still kids, but it was he knew that I was covering him to the best of my ability. And then when we ended up reconnecting again and working together at Barstool, it was this is really cool because we were both such moronic kids. Now we're doing this. And unfortunately, it didn't work out for him in the CFL. But for that 1 year that we got to do it, it was cool to kind of go back and be like, hey, remember those times in College Station? I'm living in Manhattan now. It's wild. Yeah,
full circle moment. I love that. And Johnny Football, I mean, that guy's his doc's crazy. The fact that Dave Portman was in that doc.
I know. Well, and Erica too. I remember there's the moment when Erica, because the day that they came in and his agent, Eric Burkhart, and his family, we were all there. And of course, I'm down in the lobby and the cameras are everywhere. This is, there are a lot of people who've come in and out of this office forever. And I will always say, I'm sure in Milton, I never went to the Milton office, but when people would come in, it was probably crazy. In 2017, 18, and 19, before we moved into this big office, when people came in that had any type of celebrity pop, the whole office shut down, right? So Johnny being one of those, the biggest one was when the Jersey Shore cast came the first time, the entire third floor, melted into the second floor. My girl, Lisa Ann, in this office, every guy in the office shut down. They were literally lined up around the KFC radio studio. So, but Johnny was one of those guys. And to have that kind of play into the documentary, it was cool to see. Also, it's his story is sad, right? It just is what it is. He's building a new story. But the fact that Barstool was sprinkled in there is very oh my God, really?
Yeah, of course. That's so Barstool though. I mean, it speaks to the brand.
Yeah. It was a cool moment. And the podcast didn't end up taking off. We had our moments. I remember the first time seeing comeback season via Barstool Sports when, we had Danny Amendola on or Mike Leach on Sports Center. Those were really cool moments. And I think that if Johnny had the opportunity to do that again, whether it be with us or somebody else, he would be one of the top podcasts in the world. We'll see what he does, but he's always going to be an Aggie to me. He's always been good to me. He's always treated me nicely. So I have not a bad word to say about him.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big Johnny football fan just because of just watching him in college. It was just so much
it's hard
fun
not to be, right?
Yeah, then you get Baker Mayfield, who I always called Johnny Football 2.0. I just felt like he was just a carbon copy, which I still felt I think Baker's taller though, right?
I think they're around the same height. I've never met Baker in person, but I do know that Johnny, I'm 5'9", I'm not a short girl. And Johnny is he's not as short as people think. I mean, he's also not, 6'4", but he's still got a few inches on him.
Well, he played at Texas A&M. Everything's bigger in Texas. I think I need to realize that because he looked so much shorter than Baker did out there, it's just,
yeah.
Oh shit.
Oh, we lost her again. Pete! Fuck! All right,
bad freeze this time too. Bad freeze.
We'll just catch up for right now. The interview seems to be going well right now.
He can hear us.
Yeah, I know. Right now, Kayce's frozen. Okay. She's doing a great job, Frankie.
Dude, I had such early questions, including that Johnny Football one, and then another one on here that should have asked in the beginning, but we're just going all over the place, which is
that's fine. What else do you have from earlier?
The first question I wanted to ask was. She just DM'd and said, well, fuck. It was about Carabas.
She should be able to leave and come back, too. Oh,
there we go. Hang on.
Yeah. We got her. That's all better.
Pete, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry.
Pete. No, you're fine. You're fine. Just recapping. Frankie he wasn't that impressed so far, 40 minutes in. So we got some picking up to do.
Damn,
Such a douchebag.
what an asshole you are, huh?
No, all right. So you keep you keep mentioning your love for Texas A&M, how you grew up, right? That is your love and pride, whatever. So explain it to John. I have a couple. Explain it to John's, if you don't mind. What is a yell leader and why?
Sorry, repeat that. I was talking to myself.
What is a yell leader?
Oh
and
God.
Why?
Okay. I'll answer the why first. So
Okay,
A&M is obviously a very old school. It goes back to the 1800s. Women were not allowed into the school until the 1950s. So there were not female cheerleaders around. So the yell leaders back in the day were military, because A&M is it's not a military school. I'll get yelled at by Captain Cons, but is a school with a massive group of people that go into the military. The Corps of Cadets is very big. It's not Navy or Army, whatever. So that was kind of like the way to like have like what cheerleaders do. Now I will say this. I know that it looks weird. I understand that. It's one of those things you have to appreciate when you're there. It goes back to the 1800s, and it goes back to the fact that there weren't women on campus. And if you go to a game or you watch a game on TV, you'll hear the entire stadium say the same thing, where that's because the yell leaders are leading it, as opposed to like, and no offense to cheerleaders, they're phenomenal, they're talented. Where you have like the defense, like you hear a couple people say it, yell leaders have 100,000 people saying the same thing at the same time. With that being said, I totally understand why people think it's weird. It's a tradition, and that's what college football is about. I mean, I tell Brandon, read a book. Tradition is college football. College football is tradition.
Yeah. All right. Do you actually think that if A&M and Ohio State got scheduled in 2020, that you guys would have beat us?
Yes.
No.
Prove me wrong.
No, I can't. COVID happened.
I know, that's the point. So I'm going to say yes. I'm not going to say no. Listen, like I was obviously upset that they got left out of the playoff. In reality, I think we probably would have gotten our asses kicked in. The 2020 college football season, like I am so glad Jimbo Fisher is gone. I could go down this whole rabbit hole. Like I'm going to say anything because we can't prove it wrong. But like that season doesn't count to me. Like that season is just like, yeah, we won a lot of games, but like, I mean, the world was literally in shambles. But yeah, of course we'd kick your ass. What are you talking about?
Oh, okay, yeah, agree to disagree on that one. We were stacked that year. We were taking Michigan that year. They were so scared they canceled the rest of the fucking season.
That is true.
Yeah,
but you still haven't beaten them since 2019. I just like.
Okay. Anyways, moving on.
Yeah, perfect segue. I have another one now because college football. Here we go. Okay. So one of the questions I had was favorite college football stop so far, and then second part to that is dream stop in the future.
Awesome. I love Wisconsin, and we've gone multiple times now, but we went in 2019 for the Wisconsin Michigan game, and it was so cool because I had never been to like a Big Ten weather game, like we weren't a fan because obviously we were working, but anytime I had gone, I was doing sidelines. The town itself looks like something out of like an old school movie. Back then we used to fly in for more time than like right now we usually take the plane in and out same day. So like we don't really spend time in those college football towns. Back then we used to go in whether it was the night before or, in that situation, we went in and did the radio show the night before in Madison. So Dan got to take us around and take us to all the favorite places that he went to when he was in school there, which was forever ago because we're all old. But it was so cool to see. And just like it was a super early game. We're outside of Camp Randall. So I've always said Madison's been my favorite, and we've had a lot of great stops. My dream stop, honestly, is, and I know people want me to say A&M. I would love to go back to College Station. Like that's like home, and hopefully one day we'll get to do it. But I would absolutely die to go to a night game at Notre Dame against like USC or something like that. I have spent a lot of time in South Bend. I covered Sports Center, like a circuit at Notre Dame, never got to actually go to a game. I would be there like all week and then I'd have to leave before Saturday. I think to go to a stomping grounds like that and a rivalry game would be so cool, especially like once it starts snowing. Like I'm a snowy weather girl. So probably Notre Dame and have like Touchdown Jesus as like our backdrop, but it would have to be a rivalry game or a good game. Like I'm not trying to go to a shit Notre Dame game and there's like a bunch of old people watching us. Like
you got to go to Notre Dame, Miami, Catholics versus
Conference. Like something like that would be fun. Yeah. But I honestly like, we'll see what happens. But now that we're not connected to the sports book stuff, when we were with Penn, we only could go to places that we were live in that state. So that really kind of handicapped us with where we could go. We'll see what happens this year. I know a lot of people are talking about A&M Notre Dame for week one. Like, do we go? Going back to A&M and getting to do this now would be a dream. But outside of like that chalk answer, I would say South Bend night game USC.
Yeah, it's a good It's a good answer.
Yeah, can't argue with that. Last year would have been a good one when Ohio State beat them in South Bend.
Yeah, and he cried about Lou Holtz. Like, come on, man. The guy's like 95.
I didn't do that. Look,
Oh
I'm
my
not
God.
a day guy. If Day wants to bitch and cry about that, that's just
He's
putting
yelling
more on
about
my
like,
shit list. Yeah.
You just beat like one of the all-time rivals in college football, and like you're yelling about Lou Holtz. Like the guy's
he's
gonna
90
sleep.
years old. Leave him alone.
He's eating
Yeah.
cookies in bed if he's awake, dude. He doesn't know what you're saying.
Yeah, he's not gonna catch this till 5 a.m. tomorrow. Fucking relax,
and he
Day.
even
Jesus.
catches it at all. Like, come
Yeah.
on.
He's still slurping the spit out of his mouth to get down.
Yeah, like
All
really,
I was saying is we won. We get it. Day's a
that is
crybaby
true.
bitch.
And
It's
it was a
fine.
very exciting game. And that, like, the thing is, like, a lot of people talk about Notre Dame and like how it's an older crowd, and that may be true, but like it's still one of the iconic spots of college football. And you get a good game like that. Like, there's nothing like I love the Rose Bowl. Like, I've been to USC, UCLA, and like that, you know, I've not been to the Rose Bowl, the bowl game, but like I went, and like both of the teams were shit when I went, but it was still so cool to see that iconic sunset over the stadium. Notre Dame is one of those places where it's like, I've been to South Bend enough. Like, can I go to a game now, please? Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. What's your favorite live moment with the college football show? Like your favorite
Oh
moment? I
my
know it's
God.
not just the spot. I mean, you got Big Ev in Indiana when he shit on everybody. I love that one.
Yeah, cool. Well, naturally.
Yeah.
You know what? I have to say, like, I think, and this is like such a sappy thing, and then I'll actually give my like the first one that came to mind. But the moment that means the most to me is the 2018. So we were in Ann Arbor, first live show we were going to do, and like I didn't know really what to expect from doing this show. Like I knew my face was on the side of a bus, and I was working with Dave Portnoy and Dan Katz, and like Tommy Smokes was on the show at that point, which is crazy to think. Like Braden Walker wasn't even hired yet. Blake Griffin was hanging out with us in like the little house. But
Ohio State beat Michigan at that point.
Yeah, like walking up on the stage, like I was like,
the fuck are we
this
doing
is my
here?
life now. Like this is like I'm doing, like this is my job. And I just remember like thinking like this is crazy. So like that's my sappy moment. Probably my favorite live moment is when we were in East Lansing for the Michigan State game, and Dave just got to play full heel, and like we were in a parking lot like surrounded by like dorms and apartments and like places where they set couches on fire, so you know it's going to be a good time. And it was gray out. It was perfect football weather, and he just pissed off everybody. And it was a true moment of like, this is what college football is about, because you know that 95% of those people would die to get to meet Dave and hang out with Dave, and they love Dave. But as soon as that Michigan jersey came out, they were like, fuck this guy. And that to me was probably the best moment. We also got to like make fun of how our crowd was bigger than ESPN's that day. So probably my favorite.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, Dave is the ultimate heel. You guys need to come back to Toledo again from action. I know
that was
Dave...
so fun too. I mean, I was miserably pregnant and it was freezing, but like I loved that too. Like that crowd was massive. Like that crowd was huge. And just, like Tuesday night, like it was so much fun.
Yeah, we care about our Rockets here in Toledo for sure.
Yeah.
And by the way, the best college pizza in the nation, rated by Dave Portnoy, Stubborn Brothers. Shout out.
That's true. I remember that. I remember that got a few cheers as well. It is so funny when you go.
They were
and, like,
sold out. Yeah.
Oh well, he tells people the truth about their pizza, and boy, if he says your pizza is shit, he gets a lot of booze for that, which is always very funny.
Yeah, they were sold out for literally like a couple weeks after. It was hard to get a pizza there because it's right on campus. I have one more explaining to John. It's off topic, but it's something that, you know, Barstool Breakdown, we're smaller podcasts, we're niche, we're trying to diversify. Obviously, having women on, this is our third one. Shout out us.
Thank you.
Why do girls not like Caitlin Clark?
How much time do you guys have? How much? You guys got a few hours? Like, here's the thing. Like, I know that it's such a hot topic right now, and that anything you say gets like pushed. And of course, like, you know, I have no problem speaking my mind. I cannot understand what is going on. Like, to me, like, and I played basketball in high school. I played AAU basketball. I was not good enough to play in college. Never wanted to. But like, I grew up playing that sport. I have never watched a WNBA game in my life. I don't know what that says about me. Like, maybe I'm a bad female in sports. I don't know. I have watched every single one of the Indiana Fever games this year. I went to Barclays to watch them play the New York Liberty a few weeks ago. Like, I am so invested in it. And I don't understand why you would ever hate somebody who's bringing the spotlight. Like, I understand rookie and like initiation. That's all fine and good. This is different than that. And anybody who can't see what she's bringing to the sport doesn't make sense. Like, let's say hypothetically, somebody like hurts her. Who's watching those games? Like, and I mean, I don't understand the thought process. It seems very petty to me. There's so much talent in the WNBA. Obviously, there's superstars in the WNBA. She's just heightened it. And it's like, ladies, like, You don't have to like her. You don't have to be best friends with her, but maybe let's not try to fucking kill her on the court, because if she gets hurt, the viewership goes down. That is just a fact.
You have to recognize what she's done for the game. I mean, ESPN's been trying, ESPN or, sports in general have been trying to market WNBA and promote them and, get the women paid, which they should be. They are, they're out there entertaining, working their ass off to do so. But now you have this girl where they can finally get behind. Hey, she broke the college scoring record. Hey, she shoots 30-foot logo threes. Guys, hold on. She might be fun to watch. Let's tune into her. And then she comes in and the league's like, nah, fuck her. She's trash.
It's crazy. And here's the thing. Here's the marketing thing. You guys understand this. You're in entertainment, just, podcasting, TV, whatever. When you make more money from your product, you also make more money yourself. So for example, the college football show, the pro football show, PMT, when Alex Cooper was here, Call Her Daddy, Bree, all these things for Barstool, when they make more money, people at Barstool make more money. So if Caitlin Clark is bringing in more money to the WNBA through TV contracts, through endorsements, through whatever, that's going to spread out. That to me is the most normal reaction to have. It's okay, you don't have to like her for whatever reason. She's not done anything wrong. She's better than me. I'd be talking shit and throwing elbows at this point. But the more money that comes in, the more money you're going to end up making, because she is rising all ships. Call me crazy. I'd like to make more money. I love when people like Bree take off. I loved when Alex Cooper was here. I love when you see things happen, because that means that we're going to make more money as a company. Hello,
they might have just enjoyed the peanuts from Southwest, and they're not crazy about the Chargers.
They just want to bitch about it and be like, "This is bullshit. We're not getting all this stuff." Now they're getting it. They're like, "Wait, no, we don't want it."
Where the fuck's
they're
my
bragging about
coat?
flying commercial. Fine if you want to fly commercial, but I went to the Liberty Fever game with Gia and Kelly Keegs, and we were so excited. We're wearing Caitlin jerseys, whatever. And it was chaotic. You could tell that, first of all, Barclays was completely full. I'm not talking about they hid the top level. The entire thing was full. More than any Nets game, I can guarantee from last season. Insane amount of people, obviously tons of 22 jerseys. And I love Amtrak. I've taken the Acela back and forth from Boston to New York a million times. They gave away an Amtrak ticket to Philadelphia from New York, and that was their big giveaway. That's the kind of sponsorship money that the WNBA has, and these girls are complaining. You go to an NBA game, they're giving you round trip to Hawaii, but a 45-minute train trip, and it's that's what the WNBA has right now. Let's just embrace it, see what happens. She might not be the greatest of all time, she might be, but more money is more money, ladies. At the end of the day, more money is good for everybody. So maybe the Amtrak can take you to Boston next time. It's just crazy to me.
That is a wild giveaway.
Kelly and I looked at each other like, Philly? no offense, but that's the big giveaway. I'll keep the Philly ticket, please. I don't need to go to Philly.
No thanks. Yeah, it's just weird to me too, because she reminds me she's the Steph Curry of the WNBA, where it's he was because she's not this big tall girl or anything like that. She's an outside shooter, and so he was a smaller guy, even though he's taller than everyone here.
Right.
Obviously, it's just crazy because he looks
compared
tiny.
to
but it's people embraced the shit out of him and loved him and whatever. Obviously, fans embrace him is what I'm talking about. But even in the NBA, I feel they weren't cheap shotting him or being oh, he'll never be able to do this for a longevity, whatever. They just kind of were all right, we got to beat this dude. Whatever. I feel it is so focused on she's not going to be able to keep doing this. Oh, look, she's not, they're bringing private flights, but what is that going to do for the other teams? Just enjoy it. Like you said, you're going to get more stuff because of what she's doing. So
it's bizarre. It really is. And there's also a difference in physical play and just straight up cheap shots. And and maybe this is me because I have been watching all of them. And I feel it's common sense to know the difference. And so a lot of the conversation around it, which I don't expect every single person to be watching every single Indiana Fever game, but there is a difference in the way that they're treating her versus the way that they're treating other players. Now, with that being said, do we need to make some massive deal about it every single second of every single day? No, but that's what happens when you get attention on your sport. If she's the number one story for a reason, I can guarantee you last year at this time, the whole world in sports wasn't complaining about something happening in the WNBA. That at the end of the day, whether you love it or hate it, nobody's apathetic if you're paying attention to the WNBA right now. And that's something that's massive to me, both as a content person, Barstool. The worst thing you can have is apathy. If people don't care about you and they're not consuming what you do, then you're not rising your ship. Right now, if you hate her, you're still paying attention to her. If you love her, you're still paying attention to her. Right. And that's better for the league.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I mean, what it really comes down to is we need football back, so we can stop listening to
Please,
Angel.
my God.
we
Like,
can stop listening to Angel Reese every day. Who is
I
the star.
like I said this on Unnecessary Roughness, and I'm dead serious. Like, I think that I need to learn how to play video games so that I can play NCAA 25 when it comes out. So I can, like, the month between, like the middle of July to middle of August is so long because it's like, all right, we've had our summer fun. Like, great, I understand I can go on a boat, but I just want college football. I think it'll help. I think it'll help.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
You
you
actually
can hear
don't
it in
even
your
need to
voice right
play.
there.
You could just get the game and then just do like simulated seasons and watch it. You could
That's a
just
good
watch college
point.
football, and the
See, I don't
gameplay
want
should be that
FOMO.
good.
I
Oh,
here's
true.
maybe
Yeah.
I'm like a child. And I am like a child in a lot of ways. Like I don't want to miss out. And I say this all the time, like to people, like I never watched one single episode of Game of Thrones. Couldn't have given a shit less. When I started working at Barstool, it was right before the last season debuted, and I binged the entire series in 2 months because I did not want to be left out talking about the final season of Game of Thrones. That's the way I feel right now about this game. Like I don't want to be left out. I want to learn how to play. And my old ass, who has like a 1-year-old child, is going to learn how to play NCAA. I'm going to do it.
You got to hop into Brandon Walker's Connected Dynasty. You know he's going to have like 4 or 5
And
of
like
them.
when my son gets
Yeah.
old enough to be able to play, he's going to think I'm even cooler, right? He's going to be like, oh my
Yeah.
God, my mom can play football. Or he's going to think I'm a loser. One way or the other, I'm not being left out of this.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
no,
he might get
believe me.
pissed if you're beating him. If you're beating him in football, he's
Well,
gonna. Yeah, I'd be like, I'm not playing
better
against my
learn.
mom anymore.
No, yeah, I was gonna
You
say,
better
you
learn.
better
Mama
beat
knows
him
more
first
about
of all.
football than him for a while. And then one
Yeah.
day when I don't, I will gladly hand the baton. But until then, I will let him know.
No, like you definitely got to learn how to play, and you will be the cool mom, because right now, like we have a Nintendo Switch, and my kids think I'm like God because I know how to set it up. I know how to this game, do this, do that. I could beat every single thing in there because they're 8 and 4. So obviously I could beat 8 and 4-year-olds in video games,
Yeah,
but as
I
they get
gotta
older,
learn. I have
it's
to
gonna be a
learn. Like,
problem.
it's also just a way to like really just waste time before the season actually starts, which is still so far away.
So far. I
Sad.
have a follow-up Barstool question. You mentioned him earlier. He used to be on the football show as well. Do you still have beef with Tommy Smokes? You smacked him once.
I did smack. Oh God, that felt so good. I don't. I was actually just talking to Tommy. He was in this room before me. No, I don't. I mean, if I got the opportunity to slap him in the face again, I probably would.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I? But
Just
no,
smack
I
him
don't.
in the face.
I think Tommy is great. I tell him this all the time. Like I have girlfriends, and obviously he's a little bit younger than me. Like I have girlfriends that are like obsessed with him at home, like in Texas. Like they just think he's the greatest. He is so funny. And I mean, he did mansplain college football to me in 2018, which started our beef. And then we, ended up having like Game of Thrones. We went back and forth talking shit to each other. I still don't necessarily know when it got buried, but it did. However, if I was going to fight somebody in Rough and Rowdy, Tommy would be on my short list.
Yeah.
Just because, the blog I wrote about him where he was getting like dominated by Dave every single second of every single day, like that was built from real hate that I had for him. I don't know why I hated him so much, but I did.
Yeah, like I said,
I would
he's got
die
smacked in
to
the
see
face.
you
I got
versus Tommy and Rough and Rowdy. I'm
Oh
sorry.
my God.
but
Well,
that
I
would
mean,
be
Casey's the betting favorite. They're minus 225.
And
Are
listen,
you
like
kidding me? I
I
think
joke
Tommy
around
would
a
put
lot
money
about
on it.
Rough and Rowdy. Like I actually do love boxing, and I boxed for a long time. And Devlin was asking me the other day, like what it would take for me to actually get into Rough and Rowdy. I was like, I think my Rough and Rowdy days are probably long past me now. But if you can sanction a male versus female fight, I've got a few guys on the list here at Barstool that I wouldn't mind trying it against.
Yeah.
And Tommy would probably be one of them. I know I could beat Tommy. That's why. Not because I hate him. I just think I could kick his ass.
Right, yeah, like a little warm up. It's like, all right, let's test the waters. I'll beat up Tommy Smokes, and then maybe like, we'll
like
talk
I mean, he's taller than me. He is he's a male. I am not, but I don't really picture him being able to like have like a strong right hook. Like he doesn't really like fancy me as somebody that could land a punch.
No. He literally had to make up a whole video for the Smoke Show so he could go out.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I don't know. No, but Tommy's great. And those like when you like remind me of stuff like that, it's like just crazy to see like how far like this whole company has had. Like I legitimately like would be mad at him getting on the airplane with him. Like, what are you gonna fucking explain like what a quarterback is to me today, you asshole? Like I'll never forget those moments. But like that's what makes this place so fun. Like the time I ran in and like screamed at Liz Gonzalez about the Red Sox Yankees, like what world was I living in? But like, that's the way we were back then. Like everything had to be a fight and we lived in it, and it thrives that way. And Dave loves drama. So Tommy could catch the smoke.
It's why we love the stool. And what you're coming up on 7 years now?
Yeah.
7 years. And so
Yeah, it's crazy.
7 years full of moments like that. Do you have, I know I asked you about your show. your best live moment. Do you have like just a favorite moment, just like in Barstool, or does that correlate with the other one as well?
Honestly, like, I mean, there's so many of them. And like the one, you know, going up on stage, or like the first time going to Dion's ranch, obviously, like, you know, and whether this makes me superficial or not, like getting to fly on private planes for the first time, which I've
That's
always called
surreal,
airport noise, because it's like, what world are we living in? But, you know, I really, and like, I love how big we've gotten. Obviously, it goes back to the more money we make, the more, you know, the bigger our profile is. But like those moments back in like 2018, when every single person was in that old office, we were all on top of each other. Dave was there every single day. You know, you didn't know what was going to happen. Like looking back on those days, like those were so much fucking fun. And like, just, you know, like I shared a desk. There was 2 desks and 4 of us. It was myself, Jared Carabas, Hubs, and office manager Brett. And we were like all shoved into like 2 little desks. Larry the goldfish sat right next to me. And like looking back on those moments, like that to me was like true Barstool. Like I understand Milton obviously was true Barstool, but for me, like in my career here, like those days were like so unpredictable. You didn't know who was going to fight. Like I loved those days. And like looking back at those videos, I'm like, damn, we had a lot of fucking fun back then.
That's I talked about it last episode. That's what got me into Barstool, was the stool scenes from that office. Was literally, I was like, this is the best reality show I've ever watched in my entire life. And it got me so in on Barstool that now I have a podcast where I interview people from Barstool.
Which is incredible that you guys do that, because it's like you guys are true stoolies where you see those moments. And like that's what, you know, one of the things, like as we grow, obviously we get new fans and casual fans of like the comedy side of things, or the sports side of things, or the pop culture side of things. Like if you really dig into those videos, like I remember I went through a phase where like John Feidelberg and I, like every single day it was like who was going to flip off the other person the fast enough. And like we were like literally climbing through elevators, and like Kevin was involved and Jared was involved, and like that was our everyday like mission. And it was everybody in the office. Like everybody was involved in some sort of shenanigans like that. Like the whole Brett Merriman almost killing Smitty with the paintballs and like all that stuff. Like Milton has its own stories, and that's its own chapter. And that's obviously the beginning and the genesis and like the old school Barstool. When Barstool got big enough to move to New York and started adding all the different characters and different personalities before we got so big, like those to me are the moments where I look back, I'm like, damn, I'm so lucky that I got to be a part of it. Like, I'm so happy that I was hired in that wave, because I've gotten to experience kind of all of it, like the growth and then the shenanigans, and then now how big we are and how like popular we are. And I think it's awesome. But those days were incredible. They were awful and incredible all at once.
Yeah, the family.
Those seemed like some of the best times, and that's a perfect segue too, because you brought it right back to it. Because this is one of my last questions here that I was going to ask super early in the interview, but we didn't get to it again. You talk about Carabas, the dogs, Carabas and Kevin. I just need to know, like, your best moment working with those guys, like in that time. I feel like Carabas is such like I fucking hated him so much, dude. I'm like a New York guy, so like, I don't like the Yankees though. I hate the Yankees, so I loved him when he was doing anti-Yankee shit. But it was like I just hated him every other second. Besides that, it was like, oh, he's so frustrating, but he was so good at what he did. You know, it was just. Oh well, and so I've known Jared for longer than Barstool, because he obviously, you know, being a Boston guy, and he would come in and do Red Sox hits when I was doing NBC Sports Boston, and at the time, like it changed NBC Sports Boston. It was with Comcast New England. So he'd been a part of that for a long time, and he was the Barstool blogger, but he hadn't moved to New York yet. So I've known Jared for a long time, and Jared is so different than the Rocket. Like that was to me what was always so frustrating. You talk about those CCK days where I would go fucking crazy, because I'm like, Jared, you are being an asshole for no reason. And I know you're being an asshole, but like the Rocket is out. Can you shut the fuck up for like 2 seconds? But looking back, like those were the days that really my Barstool personality got to come out, because at the time, you know, I was only doing the college football show, which was obviously the reason I got hired and the reason that I'm, you know, still where I am today here. But like those were, I got to like really explore, like, I mean, we talked about random shit all the time, but those days, and you just mentioned it, and you PTSD just flew through my brain. When we would start, and that CCK intro song would happen, and they would start barking before we even started talking, and they'd be like dog days. Like I wanted to just absolutely blow my brains out. Like I hated it, but it was like, it was so much fun. And honestly, like the COVID days, I know it's like sappy to say, but like getting to do those shows for like the hour a day that we did, and, you know, laying at home and we have the microphones, and getting to like check in with them and know that there were so many people that were listening to us just to have an escape from the hellhole that we were all living in. Like the CCK days were very fun, infuriating,
but very, very fun. And I think that, like, again, the time period was perfect for that. I don't think it would work anymore. I don't think that Barstool is in the same place that we were, but to know that every single day you were going to get the random three of us paired together the way that we were. And if Jared was going to be Jared or the Rocket that day, like those are some really good memories. And boy, did I hate them half the time. But it was a lot of fun.
I'm glad I brought it up, though. I had to at least bring it back to those days. When you talk about the memories,
the fucking barking, like it haunts my memories. Like I truly, like, but then we had Dylan that would call in, and we had the lesbians that were writing me love letters all the time. Like those were very, very fun days, very fun days. But I totally understand why a New Yorker would hate the Rocket. It makes sense.
Yeah. And like I said, not a Yankees fan. It was just such a, I mean, he did just also just shit on New York 24/7. It wasn't just the Yankees. So I guess that's also part of it. But I mean,
trust me, like I don't blame you. And like that, it was always very fun to see, like when we would all go out and like Jared would be Jared and like he would meet people and they'd be like, oh, you're actually not like a douchebag and an asshole. And like, no, the Rocket is though. And it depends. Are we getting the Rocket tonight or are we not? Like, that's what made him so good and makes him so good at what he does. So, we've all grown up so much, but like the one thing is true. The Rocket fucking hates New York and New York hates the Rocket.
Song is Rocket. God. Oh man. That also just brought me back. Cause
listen, this is like the most nostalgic I have felt in so long. This is why this podcast is so cool, guys. Cause it's like, you get to bring up these, like, I never get to talk about this stuff, like, which is fine. Like, we evolve and like this company is so different, but like just remembering, like walking in and seeing like Smitty and Brett Merriman almost throwing down over paintball. And like, people are writing, like, that whole phase of Barstool is so much fun to relive.
Yeah, I mean that's why we love the show. That's it's for, like Frankie said, he got into it just by watching stool scenes in a hospital bed. I got into it because I was trying to run my own company in Missouri, and I was like, I need more shit to listen to on the road, so more Barstool stuff.
Hey,
guys are great,
and I appreciate that. Like I said, the more people that listen, the better we've done, and Dave's done such a good job of becoming like a major celebrity. So if we can be along for that ride, thank you for listening.
Absolutely. And you spoke on it. You've been along for the entire ride. It seems like, since the Milton day, since those old stool scenes that Frankie fell in love with that got him into Barstool. And we've kind of, like you said, we got to see you come from a professional environment to Barstool, which is anything but at times. But the way you've managed it and kind of developed your career into, Kayce Smith, she's in charge of ball over there at Barstool Sports. Yeah, it's awesome to have you on. Honestly, it's for us and how small we are, and you coming on the show, it's huge for us. So thank you for coming. Like it was an incredible experience to talk to you. You truly are a professional. Like right from the rip, you were ready to go, and that's appreciated on our end. So thanks a lot.
I appreciate it. I thank you for asking me to do it, and I'm glad that I wasn't being called ma'am because I'm old. Like when I got that DM, I was like, shit, is it because I'm old? No, it's because it's a Southern thing. I do.
No, it wasn't ma'am. I just said Miss Smith because
that's right.
I'm from New York, but I live in Florida now. I've been living
Frankie,
in Florida for years. So
I appreciate that because I say Mr. a lot, like when I'm talking to my friends, but it's also different. Like if I said like Mr. Frankie to like Mr. Borelli, right? Then it's different than if I'm calling like somebody my age, like Mr. Walker. So I do appreciate the fact that we're the same age, but no, I love this. And like I said, I think this is really cool because I'm sure there's a lot of people who are casual new fans of Barstool that like wish they could stumble upon a lot of the old stuff. And like, I had to stumble upon, years before I came about, like, 2017, Dave had been doing it for 15 years. So this is really cool that you guys keep doing this. So as long as you keep Brandon Walker in line, anytime he comes on the show with you guys, I'm okay with it.
I got you. Yeah, I had him screaming at me a little bit at the end. There's a good clip of, so Sandoz, why don't you shut up? Just yelling at me because
that's his love language. That means he loves you. And I'm about to go do a necessary roughness in like an hour, so I'm gonna let him know that you guys were talking shit about him. Just see what he says.
Oh yeah.
Well, he won't believe it for me because I was just you in that episode. I was freezing the entire time. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I was so mad at myself. I'm like, we have the biggest person we've ever had on this show, and I can't stop fucking freezing. I was losing it.
Blame Pete. Always blame Pete.
Yeah, it's Pete's fault for Barstool.
Always. It doesn't matter where you are.
But it's Pete's fault.
I called Comcast out hard that day, and it was funny because just recently one of like the head guys came out here and like fixed everything and put in like fiber optics and all this stuff that's like I am running smooth now. So I was like, hey,
I'm telling you the best thing to do. I mean, it's like the recipe here. No matter where you are, no matter who you are, no matter what your issue is, it's always Pete's fault. That's just like, I love Pete. Like I would never blame Pete, but I know that that's what happens around here. So I think that you're safe if you do that.
All right, we got you.
Yeah, we're definitely. I have the clip where Pete walks out during the dozen, and he just walks out, and everyone just goes boo, and then he just waves. We're definitely putting that in when you freeze the first and second time. We got to throw that.
You know, another moment, and I know I mentioned this, and Jonathan, you're going to remember this, but the 2019 Ohio State Michigan game where Dave fires Pete 3 different times in the middle of that stream because our TVs here in the office kept going out, and I created the SpongeBob. All right, it's time for me to head out, like of Dave. Because he fired Pete enough. Those are the moments that continue to happen, and Pete's still here. He's going to be here forever. He has a get out of jail free pass, but it is always his fault from Dave Portnoy's mind.
Oh yeah, he got in trouble for last year's game.
Oh yeah. Oh,
yeah,
the amount of
the biggest one
that have been had on that RV. I promise. Like if we put those out, like they'd be gold. Maybe one day. But poor Pete, he takes a beating. But it's it's a part of our charm, I guess.
Was Dave actually nice to Mama Walker when she was on the RV?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, Dave is Dave met my parents, been very nice. He's always very nice to people's parents, but he also is likes to make fun of Brandon, and so does Mama Walker. Like Mama Walker loves. Mama Walker texted a picture of Brandon just out of the blue on Monday to me and Nick Terraney. Like we've never all been on a group chat before. And it was a picture of Brandon looking like a complete asshole in his backyard. And she was like, anybody want to guess what Brandon's doing right now? And I was like, the fact that Mama Walker thought, you know who needs to see this photo? Kayce Smith and Nick Terraney. Those are the 2 people that you need to see this. It's beautiful. It's just,
that family is content, dude.
Oh,
Uncle Doug too.
From the get-go. And she is such an amazing woman. The only time I've ever been to Starkville with him when we went in 2020, it was me, Brandon, Rudy, and Katie Stats. We went to the game. She picked us up at the airport and gave me like a welcome to Mississippi basket with like a dish towel, an ornament, some soaps. So sweet. I had never met her before. And then the first thing she says, she's like, my fucking son's an asshole, isn't he? And I was like, God, I love you. Like the Southern charm, and you're calling it how it is. I love her so much and that whole family.
I know. It makes you wonder why Brandon's so, intolerable at times.
Yes,
no, that's a joke. That's a joke. BFW, softest lips in Mississippi. For sure.
I don't know that, but I mean, hey, I take your word for it.
I'll have to throw it up here too. I got him to kiss me in Chicago once, the yak coin. So
very cute. Very cute of you.
Yeah, thank you. It was cute of him. He is to kneel down. He's a tall dude. But again, thank you so much for coming on. We're running long just because again, you've been incredible. It's been incredible having you on, and thanks again, Kayce. I can't say
I talk a lot. I'm sorry, guys.
No. I'm saying that just on my behalf.
Anytime you guys need me, you let me know.
Oh, we'll do. Yeah, we'll do.
Shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, recurring guest now. Now you have to come on.
This was awesome. Like getting to relive like those moments and the nostalgia. Like you guys are doing a really cool thing. So we appreciate it. We appreciate it too, just so you know. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, next time you come on, you're gonna have a game from me because I'm the game creator guy. So next time you do come on, it's gonna be something to boggle your brain.
I'm in. I'm so in. Give it, like I said, throw anything at me. I look at the idiots I have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. I love this kind of stuff.
Yeah, we got
you. Just a couple more idiots. That's it.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Appreciate it, Kayce.
It's the Barstool Breakdown. Go ahead and give it to me. Breakdown. Let's listen to those guys. Breakdown. What's happening at Barstool this week?